Welcome. We are all here, gathered today. But no, you may or may not be surprised, but it is not mahjong that we are reading today. We are reading The Art of Seduction. That's right. You too can learn how to riz as hard as me you can. Or I can. Or anyone for that matter. So, this is the day for that. You know what? We aren't even going to need this graphic. Yeah, that's right. We're going to be in the darkness. We're going to make sure that we can see all your shame plastered on the wall as we go on to understand Riz. And don't worry. If you're quiet and in the back of the class, me will call you out to test you as we read through the text. That said, do bring out your notepads and learn you some game. Let me add points, since you're going to need some extra cash if you're going to riz someone and take them out. So I'd say this is more like a 6969 day. There we go. I'm gonna gamble only this much. Perfect. We are off to a good start. We can't lose everything yet. You see, subtlety is the first lesson when it comes to seduction. You see that? If you had lost it all, and you have no game, you're gonna have a hard time climbing back up. So that's gonna be our first lesson. You're only showing part of what you have to offer. You don't just stick it all in from the get-go, you know what I mean? Or you just might lose it. You know what I mean? So that's the first lesson. Now, I was only stalling time to make sure that everybody else is here. But let me tell you, why is Nico making content about a book and not just playing a video game like a normal streamer? Well, first of all, you should know that I'm not like the other girls. Our content could be anything I feel like one day. If that means we're watching a 6-hour-long StarCraft video. I mean, not StarCraft. I already forgot the name of that video. EVE Online. That's what we're gonna do. Yeah, EVE Online. And this time we're going to be reading this book and I intend to finish it. So this is just going to be a regular thing because this is not a day that Nico would normally be streaming. And so I had to add an extra day just for modern literature. I know Ranmaru is a lot more familiar with Chinese texts, so I might have to consult when it comes to that day. For now, we're going not too far into the past. Robert Greene is still with us today. God bless his soul. And he is, in fact, in the writing for his 8th book. Yeah, he's made 8 books just on the topic of human psychology. I've been listening to this quite a bit on my way to work, on the bus, and coming back. And you know, this book might not, it might surprise you in a lot of ways. Mainly in that it's not a pickup artist book. We are not going to unironically come out on the streets, though you probably could with this information, just not in the expected way. It's very conniving, a little bit sneaky, a little under wraps. But it doesn't have to be for bad things, not always for nefarious things we would use this information. Here at our church, we only do chaotic good things at most. And I believe having access to these little funny tricks are going to be good, but we need them in the future. And that's why, after listening it to a while, I'm going to have to say it was worth a read. And so that's what we're going to do. All right. to get some water, some snacks. The last vestiges of my soul. Is this even the right category? Or am I gassing myself up by putting myself in ASMR when I should be on, like, I don't know, screaming simulator? Okay. Let's begin. What? What is this turn order? I found it really funny when I said that I was going to be reading on chat for content. And one of my friends asked me, wait, you guys are gonna read? And I was like, yes, we're going to read. Like, what? A visual novel? Come on. Even VTubers can be literate for things like actual literature too. Not that visual novels aren't real. We can do it all. So, The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. Preface. Thousands of years ago, power was mostly gained through physical violence and maintained with brute strength. There was little need for subtlety. A king or emperor had to be merciless. Only a select few had power, but no one suffered under this scheme of things more than women. They had no way to compete, no weapon at their disposal that could make a man do what they wanted, politically, socially, or even in the home. Of course, men had one weakness, their insatiable desire for sex. A woman could always toy with this desire, but once she gave in to the sex, the man was back in control. And if she withheld sex, he could simply look elsewhere or exert force. What good was a power that was so temporary and frail? Yet women had no choice but to submit to this condition. There were some, though, whose hunger for power was too great, and who, over the years, through much cleverness and creativity, invented a way of turning the dynamic around, creating a more lasting and effective form of power. These women, among them Bathsheba, from the Old Testament, Helen of Troy, the Chinese siren, He-She, and the greatest of them all, Cleopatra, invented seduction. And hello, 7 unripe bananas. What a fitting name for our Art of Seduction reading today. Welcome, Sage. You have been missed. Not too late this time. Only been 10 minutes. I mean, I was 30 minutes late, so to be fair. Alright, back to it. So, Cleopatra invented seduction. First, they would draw a man in with an all-alluring appearance, designing their makeup and adornment. Let me lower this. Okay. To fashion the image of a goddess come to life. Of course, we are in the ASMR category. Falling asleep was all part of it. So this time I won't reprimand you for doing that. Do be comfy. By showing only glimpses of flesh, they would tease a man's imagination, stimulating the desire not just for sex, but for something greater. The chance to possess a fantasy figure. Once they had their victims' interests, these women would lure them away from their masculine world of war and politics and get them to spend time in the feminine world. Good night, Sage. I hope you enjoy the dream world. A world of luxury, spectacle, and pleasure. They might also lead them astray, literally, taking them on a journey as Cleopatra lured Julius Caesar on a trip down the Nile. Men would grow hooked on these refined, sensual pleasures. They would fall in love, but then, invariably, the women would turn cold and indifferent, confusing their victims. Just when the men wanted more, they found their pleasures withdrawn. They would be forced into pursuit, trying anything to win back the favors they once had tasted, and growing weak and emotional in the process. Men who had physical force and all the social power, men like King David, the Trojan Paris, Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, Kung Fu Chai would find themselves becoming the slave of a woman. In the face of violence and brutality, these women made seduction a sophisticated art, the ultimate form of power and persuasion. They learned to work in the mind first, stimulating fantasies, keeping a man wanting more, creating patterns of hope and despair, the essence of seduction. Their power was not physical, but psychological, not forceful, but indirect and cunning. These first seductresses were like military generals, planning the destruction of an enemy, and indeed, early accounts. Let's see. Lost myself here. These first great seductresses were like, oh yeah, get gaslight, gatekeeping, and girl bossing since before times, indeed. We're gonna learn all of it. Their power was not physical, but psychological, not forceful, but indirect and cunning. These first great seductresses were like military generals planning the destruction of an enemy. And indeed, early accounts of seduction often made it to battle, the feminine version of warfare. For Cleopatra, it was a means of consolidating an empire. In seduction, the woman was no longer a passive sex object. She had to become an active agent, a figure of power. So, oppression and scorn, thus, were and must have been generally the share of women in emerging societies. This state lasted in all its force until centuries of experience taught them to substitute skill for force. It was quite literally a skill issue, they realized. Women at last sensed that, since they were weaker, their only source was to seduce. They understood that if they were to be dependent on men through force, men would become dependent on them through pleasure. More unhappy than men, they must have thought and reflected earlier than did men. They were the first to know that pleasure was always beneath the ideal, the one formed of it, and that the imagination went further than nature. Once these basic truths were known, they learned first to veil their charms in order to awaken curiosity. They practiced the difficult art of refusing even if they wished to consent. From that moment on, they knew how to set a man's imagination afire. They knew how to arouse and direct desires as they pleased. Thus did beauty and love come into being. Now, the lot of women became less harsh. Not that they managed to liberate themselves entirely from the state of oppression to which their weakness condemned them, but in the state of perpetual war that continues to exist between men and women. One has seen them, with the help of the caresses they have been able to invent, combat ceaselessly. Of course. Whichever increases. Wait. Breathing the plan unless you want to head. Mew, what is wrong with you? There's just more. There's some more shit. You're telling them they're gonna get a headache. Sheesh, I didn't know my voice was that ear grating. Shall I play the sounds of Nails on chalkboard. Then Miu's trying to tell you to go to bed. Alright then. Sometimes vanquish and often more skillfully take advantage of the forces directed against them. Sometimes, too, men have turned against women. These weapons the women had forged to combat them, and this slavery become all the harsher for it. Oh yeah, don't worry, I got that. Miu missed the 5 memo. Classic Miu move. Hey, we both got bullied. She was actually trying to protect you or something by saying, cover your ears for, or you might get a headache. What? What is... Okay, we are truly in the gaslight era now. She can have that. I'll have girl boss. I don't know who has gatekeep. Maybe that is gatekeep. She just told you to consider a different strategy. Don't come to stream tomorrow. Some of you guys in chat are alright. Much more ingenious is needed to make love than to command armies. Wow. I didn't know it was that hard to be a Rizzler. Now we know. Menelaus, if you are really going to kill her, then my blessing go with you, but you must do it now, before her looks so twist she strings of your heart, that they turn your mind, for her eyes are like armies, and where her glances fall, their cities burn, until the dust of their ashes is blown by her sighs. I know her, Menelaus, and so do you, and all those who know her suffer, said Hecuba, speaking about Helen of Troy and Euripides, the Trojan woman, translated by Neil Curry. Martial Riz, exactly. If you seduce your generals and have them on your own strings, on a leash even, they will do anything, even give up their kingdoms for you. You know how badly people have been so down bad through history. Yeah. I've been down bad thousands of dollars for a certain girl at one point. You would think that with such devotion, love, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially even, maybe something good would happen out of it. But no, even your cult leader has weaknesses too. If I can lose all that money that I barely had in the first place. There is flam. Anyways. Yes. Those Riz checks, they will... They have been rizzed by certain ones that we will read about in a minute and have lost their entire kingdoms, and for what? Just a little bit of, you know what I mean? Anyways. Let me see where we were at. With a few exceptions, the Latin poet Ovid, the medieval troubadours, men who did not much concern themselves with the frivolous art of seduction. Then, in the 17th century, came a great change. Men grew interested in seduction as a way to overcome a woman's resistance to sex. History's first great male seducers, Seagwolf, Flam, everyone in this chat, Sage, the first seducers of the 17th century, came a great change. Men grew interested in seduction as a way to overcome the young woman. They, as well as the different Spaniards who inspired Don Juan, the legend, began to adopt the methods traditionally employed by women. They learned to dazzle their appearances, often androgynous in nature. See, they had femboys back in the day too. To stimulate the imagination, to play the coquette. You see, when girls are down bad from, let's say, Midas from Fortnite, now that's a hot bot, I'll tell you what. They like effeminate men. They always have. This is nothing new. Don't be surprised. To stimulate the imagination, to play the coquette, they have also added a new masculine element to the game: seductive language. Girl, are you a garage? Cause I wanna park my car. That sort of thing. The feminine use of experiences and masculine use of language, but often cross gender lines. Casanova would dazzle a woman with his clothes. Nina and Delacroix would charm a man with her words. At the same time that men were developing their version of seduction, others began to adapt the art for social purposes. As Europe's feudal system of government faded into the past, courtiers needed to get into their way of the court without the use of force. They learned the power to be gained by seducing their superiors and competitors through psychological games, soft words, a little coquetry. As culture became democratized, yes, they do. They do love cloaks and masks. Actors, dandies, and artists came to use the tactics of seduction as a way to charm and win over their audience and social milieu. In 19th century, another great change occurred. Politicians like Napoleon, shout out to our short kings out there, consciously saw themselves as seducers on a grand scale. These men depended on the art of seductive oratory, but they also mastered what had once been feminine strategies: staging fast spectacles, using theatrical devices, creating a charged physical presence. All this they learned was the essence of charisma, and so, which will henceforth be called Riz. Riz. Boo, Napoleon, where Duke of Wellington stands here. Cease such blasphemies, for mine ear bleed. But don't go too far. By seducing the masses, they could accumulate immense power without the use of force. Today, we have reached the ultimate point in the evolution of seduction. Now, more than ever, force or brutality of any kind is discouraged. All areas of social life require the ability to persuade people in a way that does not offend or impose itself. Forms of seduction can be found everywhere, blending male and female strategies. Advertisements insinuate the soft sell dominates. If we are to change people's opinions, and affecting opinion is basic to seduction, we must act in subtle, subliminal ways. Nico is the one. Nico is your only one. Your only Oshi. Nico is your Oshi. Nico is your Oshi. Today, no political campaign can work without seduction. Since the era of John F. Wait, what? Where did we go on the page? I'm not going to freestyle this book, okay? I don't know that much about Riz. Believe it or not. Since John F. Kennedy, political figures are required to have a degree of charisma, a fascinating presence to keep their audience's attention. Oh, Sage, is that true? I am so honored. There's no way. Out of all the VTubers, with higher quality and funnier streams? Me? You shouldn't have. I am the apex rooster and I got some genres. You know, if I ever had kids, you know what I'd want to have? A pair. I'm kidding, I want triplets. Anyways, the film world and media created a galaxy of seductive stars and images. They are saturated in the seductive. I don't know. It comes with the territory if you want to get with Mew. She's really stubborn with that since she's her own woman. Wait, look, look. She's so smart. See, she only does that because she cares. You know what? It's not gaslighting. She's not gaslighting you. She's only trying to help improve you by testing your critical thinking. That's not gaslighting. I don't think so. It's just saying facts. That maybe you two would get together well. But even if this much has changed in degree and scope, the essence of seduction is constant. Totally not. That's not a gaslight at all. Impressions and phrases for the one and only Mew. Gassed her up too. Gassed herself up. And even if as much has changed in degree and scope, the essence of seduction is constant. Never be forceful or direct. Instead, use pleasure as bait. Playing on people's emotions, stirring desire and confusion, inducing psychological surrender. In seduction, as it is practiced today, the methods of Cleopatra still hold. Mm-hmm. No man hath in his power to overrule the deceitfulness of a woman. Marguerite of Navarre. This important sidetrack by which woman succeeded in evading man's strength and in establishing herself in power has not been given due to consideration by historians. From the moment when the woman detached herself from the crowd, an individual finished product, offering delights which could not be obtained by force but by flattery, the reign of love's priestesses was inaugurated. It was a development of far-reaching importance in the history of civilization. Only by this circuitous route of the art of love can women again assert authority. And this she did by asserting herself as the very point of which she would normally be a slave at the man's mercy. She had discovered the might of lust, the secret of the art of love, the demonic power of passion artificially aroused and never satiated. You know, I'm getting a feeling that they really, really love playing hard to get as a historical game they play here. Should I be doing that more? Am I too easy? I think I am. So I'm gonna start being a little more tsundere. How's that sound? Yeah, well, you're just gonna have to deal with that. The Forest Hints Unchained was henceforth to count among the most tremendous of the world's forces and moments to have power, even to have power over life and death. The deliberate spellbinding of man's senses was to have a magical effect upon him, opening up on an infinitely wider sensation and spurring him on as if compelled by an inspired dream. By Alexander von Gleichensum, The World's Lure, translated by Hannah Waller. Riz your way out of death. That's it. Oh, definitely. I'm going to add it to Nicomancy, the 5th edition, when we ever get around to it. Why do you think the stream is called The Dark Arisen? if not for that. Now, get it twisted. People are trying to constantly influence us, tell us what to do, and just as soon as we tune them out, resisting their attempts at persuasion, there is a moment in our lives, however, when we all act differently. When we are in love, get it twisted. You think that you have the strength to hold on to your own convictions, and that you have the mental fortitude that when you say, I'm not going to get tricked again, she's not going to get in my head, she's not going to get in my head, she's not going to get into my head, she's not going to get into my head. And then when we're in love, we fall under a kind of spell. Our minds are usually preoccupied with one's own concerns. Now they become filled with thoughts of a loved one. We grow emotional, lose the ability to think straight, act unwise in a way that we would never do otherwise. If this goes long enough, something inside us gives way. We surrender to the will of a loved one and to our desire to possess them. Yeah, when she comes and she gives you $6, what do you think she does right after that? Ricci. Ipatsu. She's not gonna sugarcoat it. Just when you were at the edge of greatness, you got blue-balled. Seducers are people who understand the tremendous power contained in such moments of surrender. Yeah, that's why rats get trapped in rat traps. Exactly. Understand the tremendous power contained in such moments of surrender. They analyze what happens when people are in love, study the psychological components of the process, what spurs the imagination, what casts a spell. By instinct and through practice, they master the art of making people fall in love. As the first seductress knew, more like, it is much more effective to create love than lust. A person in love is emotional, pliable, and easily misled. The origin of the word seduction is Latin for to lead astray. Oh, how she had led me astray, for there I had begun to act unwise, said Confucius. Ranmaru could probably confirm that to me, that he did in fact say that and then pull it out of the ether. Just like the origin of the word charisma is derived from better sleep. Thank you, see, I knew it. That's what Confucius said. Captain Z's restaurant, that sweet spot. Oh, Mia really wants to sleep on the south direction. I wonder if there's something there. Or she's saying that she wants to go south for different reasons. Oh, I understand now. Me, you cannot hide. You cannot hide your intentions all along. Why are you so fixated on Flam like this in specific? You know, you've been roasting Siegfulf the moment he came into this chat, and everyone else, including me. Anyways, a person in lust is harder to control. Once satisfied, may easily leave you. Well, she hasn't told you to sleep yet. She told you to work on your entrance if you don't want to get hurt. Seducers take their time, create enchantment in the bonds of love, so that when sex ensues, it only further enslaves the victim. Creating love and enchantment becomes the model of all seductions, sexual, social, political. A person in love will surrender. It is pointless to try to argue against such power, to imagine that you are not interested, or that it is evil and ugly. Because, get it twisted, everything in your life, what you do in this world, this universe, of which you are a pawn in its own chess game, is all meaningless and predetermined, down to the very neurons and cells that build your brain. It was all preordained. Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. So even if you are not interested in love, the neurons firing at every moment will make you look at the first woman who looks in your direction, gives you a wink and a smile, and says hi. Yes, I'm talking about the cashier when you go to the grocery store. You will feel love, no matter how many times you swear against it. It's just the way it is. Get it twisted, though. What you have to understand is when you learn to recognize these things and you practice and you get hurt and over and over and over again, you will start to realize that you can come back every single time. And it does not have to hold you by the shackles of which your biology had predetermined for you since the start. So just remember, the harder you try to resist the lure of seduction as an idea, as a form of power, the more you will find yourself fascinated. The reason is simple. Most of us have known the power of having somebody fall in love with us. Remember, a Yakuman in Southward will always bring you back from the brink. You don't even have to be the dealer. Our actions, gestures, the things we say, all have positive effects on the person. Just like how I could say the most heinous things right now on stream. I'll be like, just kidding. And you guys would forgive me. I know that. We may not completely understand what we might have done right, but this feeling of power is intoxicating. You can't cancel me. I'm cute. Come on. It gives us confidence, which makes us more seductive. We may also experience this in a social or work setting. One day we are in an elevated mood, and people seem more responsive. It would be like that of divine word. Exactly. There is nothing that could go wrong here. I think only non-followers would end up being the bane of our channel. I wait for the day. These moments of power are fleeting, but they resonate in the memory with great intensity. We want them back. Nobody likes to feel awkward or timid or unable to reach people. The siren call of seduction is irresistible because power is irresistible. And nothing will bring you more power in the modern world than the ability to seduce. Write that down. Repressing the idea, the desire to seduce. Let me see. To seduce. To seduce hysterical reaction, revealing your deep down fascination with the process. You are only making your desires stronger. Someday they will come to the surface. Get it twisted. When you put your mind to the curiosity of things that make you feel connected to the world, like the art of seduction and love, your desires grow stronger, and through your desires will it come manifest. That is exactly what the book just said. The first thing to get in your head is that every girl can be caught, and you will catch her if you set your toils right. Birds, you guys, soon fall dumb in springtime, cicadas in the summer, or a hunting dog turn his back on a hare. Then the lover's bland inducements can fail with a woman, even one you suppose reluctant will want it. Ovid on the art of love. The combination of these two elements, enchantment and surrender, is then essential to the love in which we are discussing. What exists in love is surrender due to enchantment by Jorge Ortega y Gasset on love. Now, what is good? All that heightens the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself in man. What is bad? All that proceeds from weakness. What is happiness? The feeling that power increases, that a resistance is overcome. Did he just say that? Like, what? Good is better, bad is worser? If you can be more gooder than bad, that's happiness. All right, whatever you say, Friedrich Nietzsche on the Antichrist. Okay, I could have written that too. Guess that makes me a philosopher in modern day. Yes, and if you can overcome the bad with the good, you'll be happy. I should write a book. To have such power does not require a total transformation in your... You know that Friedrich Nietzsche is one of the most down bad of all time. He was actually I wasn't sure in the timeline, but his whole nihilistic or where you get it twisted, nothing in your life matters. This world does not matter. There's no reason to live inherently, so why even bother? Just don't. Why am I here? I don't know. You know what I believe had something to do with that? The fact that he had this really cute and smart woman go into his life, think Kurisi Makise from Steins Gate. Yeah, absolute bloody genius and a bombshell of a redhead. Came into his life and she dipped out. Why do you think that man became a nihilist? Why do you think he became the nihilist, where he thought nothing else mattered in the world? He got. You see? He got. Pathetic. Yeah, he fumbled. He got it twisted. Sadly, he wasn't in the time to come back from any of that. It was already too late. All he could do was write in his little manifesto. I mean, he got famous for it, and he got a lot of edgelords to believe in the same doctrine. I don't believe it. I used to be just like him. But he just couldn't stop talking about it. I know that's crazy. When you say a lot of words, when you yap for a really long time and you use big fancy words that are hard to understand, people will start to believe what you're saying and maybe start thinking that you're right. Right? To have such power does not require a total transformation in your character or any kind of physical improvement in your looks. Well, I don't know. Looks maxing seems kind of valuable these days, but seduction is a game of psychology, not beauty. It is within the grasp of any person to become the master at the game. All that is required is that you look at the world differently through the eyes of a seducer. Henceforth, seducers will now be called Rizzlers. Charisma is called Riz. A Rizzler. Yes, exactly. Especially people you're rizzing. Fancy words helps. Damn right, it makes you look sophisticated, smart, educated, valuable. Mm-hmm. Oh. That's right, Stream Elements. We do use the 7TV extension. So we can do things like drop actual emotes that we have, because we don't want to throw in ads in this chat, so I'm gonna throw them in that way. It's my workaround. Quick water break. I gotta stay hydrated. This is one book where that really gets you thirsty in more than one. Exactly. And don't succumb to the thirst. This is a very thirst trappy zone. Okay. A seducer does not turn the power off and on. Every social and personal interaction is seen as potential riz. Whoa. Just remember, riz is a lifestyle. There is never a moment to waste. This is for several reasons. The power Rizzlers have over a man or woman works in social environments because they have learned how to tone down the sexual element without getting rid of it. We may think we see through them, but they are so pleasant to be around anyways that it doesn't matter. Hi guys. Trying to divide your life into moments in which you rizz and others in, which hold you back, will only confuse and constrain you. Erotic desire and love lurk beneath the surface of almost every human encounter. Better to give them free rein to your skills than to be tried to use them only in the bedroom. In fact, the Rizzer sees the world as his or her bedroom. This attitude creates great seductive momentum. And with each Riz, you gain experience and practice. It's just like leveling up. One social or sexual Riz makes the next one easier. Your confidence growing and making you alluring. Exactly, we've reached planetary level Riz. Hashtag Riz the world. People are drawn to you in greater numbers as the Rizzer's aura descends upon you. Rizzlers have a warrior's outlook on life. They see each person as a kind of a walled castle in which they are laying siege. Rizzling is a process of penetration. Initially penetrating the target's mind, their first point of defense. Once the Rizzlers have penetrated the mind, making the target fantasize about them, it is easy to lower their resistance and create physical surrender. Rizzlers do not improvise. They do not leave the process to chance. Like any good general, they plan and strategize, aiming at the target's particular weaknesses. The main obstacle to becoming a Rizzler is this foolish prejudice we have of seeing love and romance as some sacred magical realm. Exactly. Nothing could stop you. You just have to bring them back to the old English. The main obstacle to becoming a Rizzler in this foolish prejudice that we have of seeing love and romance as this some kind of sacred magical realm where things just fall into place if they are meant to. This may seem romantic and quaint, get it twisted, but it really is just a cover for our laziness. What will seduce a person is the effort we expend on their behalf, meaning that rizzing is a one-sided effort. It is you, the Rizzler, who must get in and slide in those DMs, not the other way around. You can't get it twisted. Nobody's gonna come to save you. There is no waiting game for things to get better. You have to get it twisted and be the one to rise up and bring yourself to the top where you belong. Your efforts will pay off. That is the essence of Riz. What will Riz, a person, is showing how much we care, how much they are worth. Leaving things to chance is a recipe for disaster and reveals that we do not take love and romance seriously. It was the effort Casanova expended, the artfulness he applied to each affair that made him so devilishly seductive. Miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so true. I've come to relax and what the hell is this? You know what? I'm in. Exactly. Imagine. And just like it said, any woman has a weak spot and any woman can be rizzed if you find the right buttons to press. So don't quit. Never stop. Never take no for an answer. Get it twisted. Respect when a woman says no. Maybe, just maybe, she might come around. Get it twisted. Maybe it's you that needs to come around and siege those walls. Do you think that the kingdom wanted to be sieged from the mind then physically? They never did. But what did those cities say now? We are so happy to be a part of this kingdom. Oh, we are so glad and we love our country. We would die for it. Get it twisted. The people that we have been seduced to believe our leaders and the values that we have built upon this land are but an illusion to keep us asleep from the truths of our bloodied past. But what are we going to do? Lay it down and quit. Get it twisted. Only we can affect what is now and what is going to be forward from here. Don't forget. Anyways, falling in love is a matter not of magic but of psychology. Once you understand your target's psychology and strategize to suit it, you will be better to cast a magical spell. A seducer sees love not as sacred as warfare, where all is fair. Love is war mentioned? Yeah, nice. Rizzlers are never self-absorbed. Their gaze is directed outward, not inward. When they meet someone, their first move is to get inside that person's skin, to see the world through their eyes. Yeah, the only getting twisted is the twisting and turning you'll be having in your sleep. So please enjoy the time and get some proper rest. I appreciate you being here, Sig. The reasons for this are several. Love is a war, run motto. First, self-absorption is a sign of insecurity. It is anti-Riz. Good night. Everyone has insecurities, but Rizzlers manage to ignore them, finding therapy for moments of self-doubt by being absorbed in the world. If you ever feel insecure, just stop. That's how you become a certified Rizzer. This gives them a buoyant spirit if you want to be around them. Second, getting into someone's skin, imagining what it's like to be them, helps the Rizzer gather valuable information. Learn what the person does and what makes them tick. What will make them lose their ability to think straight and fall into a trap. Armed with such information, they can provide focused and individualized attention. A rare commodity in a world in which most people see us only from behind the screen of their own prejudices. Getting into the target's skin is the most important tactical move in the war of penetration. Man, this book does not hold back. Rizzers see themselves as providers of pleasure, like bees that gather pollen from some flowers and deliver it to others. As children, we mostly devoted our lives to play and pleasure. Adults often have feelings of being cut from this paradise, of being weighed down by responsibilities. The Rizzer knows that people are waiting for pleasure. They never can get enough of it from friends and lovers, and they cannot get it by themselves. A person who enters their lives offering adventure and romance cannot be resisted. Pleasure is a feeling of being taken past our limits, of being overwhelmed by another person, by an experience. People are dying to be overwhelmed, to let go of their usual stubbornness. Sometimes their resistance to us is a way of saying, please, seduce me. Rizzers know that the possibility of pleasure will make a person follow them, and the experience of it will make someone open up, weak to the touch. They also train themselves to be sensitive to pleasure, knowing that feeling pleasure themselves will make it that much easier for them to infect the people around them. A Rizzler sees all of life as theater, everyone an actor. Most people feel they have constricted roles in life, which makes them unhappy. Rizzlers, on the other hand, can be anyone and assume many roles. The archetype here is the god Zeus, insatiable Rizzler of young maidens whose main weapon was the ability to assume the form of whatever person or animal would appeal most to his victim. Rizzers take pleasure in performing and are not weighed down by their identity. Your art of seduction and the microphone is correcting me. And me already trying to show you that. Got me weak. All right. It's honestly becoming too good. This is anti-Riz. Rizzlers take pleasure in performing and are not. Oh. Okay. Let me drink some water now. Raise my back though. They got me good. I'm gonna die out here. Rizzlers take pleasure in performing and are not weighed down by their identity or by some need to be themselves or to be natural. This freedom of theirs, this fluidity in body and spirit is what makes them attractive. What people lack in life is not reality, but illusion, fantasy, play. The clothes that seducers wear, the places they take you to, their words and actions are slightly heightened. Not overly theatrical, but with a delightful edge of unreality. As if the two of you were living out a piece of fiction or were characters in a film. You see, this is why VTubers have been such a big thing, because we are all just a slice of fiction, of a heightened reality, in which we could use to escape from what is outside. It's scary out there, isn't it? But here, you are safe. Seduction is kind of a theater in real life, the meeting of illusion and reality. Finally, Rizzlers are completely amoral in their approach to life. It is a game, an arena for play, knowing that the moralists The crowd repressed those who croak about the evils of the Rizzler, secretly envy their power. They do not concern themselves with other people's opinions. They do not deal in moral judgments. Their nothing could be anti-Riz. What? I never said that I wasn't. I said that this was a heightened reality. The dissatisfaction, neurosis, anguish, and frustration encountered by psychoanalysis comes no doubt from being unable to love or to be loved, from being unable to give or take pleasure, but the radical disenchantment that comes from seduction and its failure. Only those who lie outside Riz are ill, even if they remain fully capable of loving and making love. Psychoanalysis believes it treats the disorder of sex and desire, but in reality it is dealing with the disorders of Riz. The most serious deficiencies always concern charm and not pleasure, enchantment and not some vital or sexual satisfaction. Jean Villard on Seduction. Yeah. Are you trying to get punished already? Do you want to be able to sleep? Well, you do. Forever, maybe. Only if it's comfy, of course. Whatever is done from love always occurs beyond the good and the evil, said Friedrich Nietzsche. Maybe he does have some good takes. Pliant, fluid, like life itself. Riz is a form of deception, but people want to be led astray. They yearn to be rizzed. If they didn't, Rizzlers would not have been able to find so many willing victims. Get rid of any moralizing tendencies. Adopt the Rizzler's playful philosophy, and you will find the rest of the process easy and natural. Get it twisted. Your loyalty has to be put into question at every moment, even when it's not directly approached by me or you, because you have to reflect on who it is that you choose to follow in this life. But ultimately, the only one you can truly follow is the one within yourself. To follow others is a mistake. They can merely be guideposts on the road that is your own. But get it twisted. People can't always think for themselves. Sometimes you need a symbol, a compass to follow to even find your way in the first place. Who knows what we even have control over and where we end up in this life. I sure as hell didn't think I was going to be a VTuber when I was 10 years old. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I thought I was going to be a scientist. And look at me, teaching Riz and Mahjong to all my friends online on a podium with a robot next to me. Did I choose that path? I don't know. I have no idea. Should anyone here in Rome lack finesse and lovemaking, let him try me. My book and results are guaranteed. Technique is the secret. Charioteer, salesman, oarsman, all need it. Technique can control. Love himself. Ovid, The Art of Love. VTuber doctor. You know what? Maybe I should be the Dr. K, but as a VTuber. That'd work out. I'll be teaching alternative medicine and all that. The art of Riz is designed to arm you with weapons of persuasion and charm. So those around you will slowly lose their ability to resist without knowing how or why it has happened. It is an art of war for delicate times. Literally mentioned by the way, Ranmaru. Every Riz has two elements that you must analyze and understand. First, yourself. And what is seductive about you? Second, your target and the actions that will penetrate their defenses and create surrender. The two ends are equally important. If you strategize without paying attention to the parts of your character that draw people to you, you will be seen as a mechanical Rizzler, slimy and manipulative. If you rely on your rizzling personality without paying attention to the other person, you will make terrible mistakes that limit your potential. And yes, all of us are different cuts of cloth, tools of different forges. There are things about you that another find extremely attractive. Get it twisted. Even a blunt knife can still cut. Do you see that? Even a blunt knife can be sharpened. Whichever you are, there is some use or can be use towards this world. Something to be admired and respected. Don't let them bring you down. Welcome, Cassius. We were just barely getting into the first. This is only the preface for Riz, by the way. We are just getting into it. Consequently, the art of Riz is divided into two parts. The first half, the Rizzling character, describes the 9 types of Rizzler, plus the anti-Riz. So studying these types will make you aware of what is inherently Riz in your character, the basic building block of any Riz. The second half, the Riz process. Too late. Don't worry. Just because you've fallen for my Riz, I didn't even know I had any. You too can find a way to Riz the others for yourself. Make a whole harem even. Sheesh. The Riz process includes 24 maneuvers. Don't forget all of these strats. And strategies that will instruct you on how to create a spell. So get your tomes out. Break down people's resistances. Get your stats out. And give them a movement and force to your seduction and induce surrender in your target. As a kind of bridge between these two parts, there is a chapter on the 18 types of victims in Riz, each one of them missing something from their lives, each cradling an emptiness that you alone can fill. So there are 18 holes, guys, not just 3. Knowing what type you are dealing with will help you put these into practice in both sections. Ignore any part of this book, and you will become an incomplete Rizzler. The ideas and strategies in the art of Riz are based on the writings and historical accounts of the most successful Rizzlers in history. The sources include the Seducer's own memoirs by Casanova, Errol Flynn, Natalie Barney, Marilyn Monroe, biographies of Cleopatra, Josephine Bonaparte, John F. Kennedy, Duke Ellington. Handbooks on the subject, most notably Ovid's Art of Love, and fictional accounts of seductions, Calderos de Luxos, Dangerous Liaisons, Soren Kierkegaard's The Seducer's Diary, Murasaki Shikibu's The Tale of Genji, Nico Miyu's Stream Chat, The Art of Rizzling, reading by the dark Arizzen, and one of many. The heroes and heroines of these literary works are generally molded on real-life Rizzlers. The strategies they employ reveal the intimate connection between fiction and Riz, creating an illusion and leading a person along. In putting the book's lessons into practice, you will be able to follow the path of the greatest masters of the art. Finally, the spirit that will make you a consummate Riz is the spirit in which you have read this book. The French writer Denis Diderot once wrote, "Don't take too much advice from Genji, doesn't work well." Noted. I trust you on that. You are quite the connoisseur when it comes to Asian texts. I give my mind the liberty to follow the first wise or foolish idea that presents itself, just as in the avenue of the void that dissolute youths follow close on the heels of some strumpet, then leave her to pursue another, attacking all of them and attaching themselves to none. My thoughts are my strumpets. He meant that he let myself be seduced by ideas, following whichever one caught his fancy until a better one came along. His thoughts infused with a kind of sexual excitement. Once you enter these pages, do as Diderot advised. Let yourself be lured by the stories and ideas, your mind open and your thoughts fluid. Slowly, you will find yourself absorbing the poison through your skin. And you will begin to see everything in the world as Riz, including the way you think and the way you see the world. Most virtue is a demand for greater Riz, by Natalie Barney. Hence, we begin The Art of Seduction, Part 1. Yes, I do appreciate that you are on your way on the car right now to let us know. Remember, there is no Riz in, I can't really make a bad joke about like car crashing right now, so just say car crash Riz. Please drive safe and make it back to us. Part 1. We have the power of attraction, the ability to draw people in and hold them in our thrall. Far from all of us, though, are aware of this inner potential, and we imagine attractiveness instead of a near mystical trait that a few are born with and the rest will never command. Yet, all we need to do is realize our potential and understand what it is in a person's character that naturally excites people and develop these latent qualities within us. Get it twisted. Just because you're born with certain attributes that make things more difficult to relate to the general public or understand people's feelings, much less your own, do know that there are things from within that, given the right amount of awareness, you will learn how to play your cards better. Sometimes just being able to see what's in your hand is all it takes to become a certified Riz. Successful Riz rarely begin with an obvious maneuver or strategic advice that is certain to arouse suspicion. Successful Riz begins with your character, your ability to radiate some quality that attracts people and stirs their emotions in a way that is beyond their control. Hypnotized by your seductive character, your victims will not notice your subsequent manipulations. It will then be child's play to mislead and Riz them. There are 9 Riz types in the world. Each type has a particular character trait that comes from deep within and creates a seductive pull. Sirens have an abundance of sexual energy and know how to use it. Rakes insatiably adore the opposite sex, and their desire is infectious. Ideal lovers have an aesthetic sensibility that they apply to romance. Dandies like to play with their image, creating a striking and androgynous allure. Naturals are spontaneous and open. Coquettes are self-sufficient with a fascinating cool at their core. Charmers want and know how to please. They are social creatures. Charismatics have an unusual confidence in themselves. Stars are ethereal and envelop themselves in mystery. The mahjong player, elusive, unpredictable, always out of tile, but waiting at the end of the day, even in hell. The chapters in this section will take you inside of the 9 types. At least one of the chapters should strike a chord. You will recognize part of yourself. That chapter will be the key of developing your own powers of Riz. Do you hear that? There are 9 classes to choose from. There are 9 Riz classes. So you have to pay attention to which one you might fall into and then lean on those strengths. That chapter will be the key to developing your own powers. Now, let's say you have coquettish tendencies. All right. The coquette chapter will show you how to build your own self-sufficiency, alternating hot and coldness to ensnare your victims. It will show you how to take your natural qualities farther, becoming a grand coquette, as opposed to a level 1 basic coquette. The type we fight over. There is no point in being timid with a Riz quality. We are charmed by the unabashed rake, and it is and excuses excesses. But a half-hearted rake gets no respect. Once you have cultivated your dominant character trait, adding some art to what nature has given you, you can then develop a second or third trait, adding depth and mystery to your persona. It doesn't literally say depth and mystery. Finally, the section's 10th chapter, the Anti-Rizzler, will make you aware of the opposite potential with you, the power of repulsion. At all costs must you root out any anti-Riz tendencies you might have. Think of the 9 gates as shadows, silhouettes. Only by stepping into one of them and letting it grow inside you can you begin to develop the seductive character that will bring you limitless power. The Siren. A man is often secretly oppressed by the role he has to play, by having to always be responsible, in control, and rational. The siren is the ultimate male fantasy figure because she offers a total release from the limitations of his life. In her presence, which is always heightened and sexually charged, the male feels transported into a world of pure pleasure. She is dangerous, and in pursuing her energetically, the man can lose control over himself, something he yearns to do. The siren is a mirage. She lures men by cultivating a particular appearance and manner. In a world where women are often too timid to produce such an image, learn to take control of the male libido by embodying his fantasy. The spectacular siren. In the year 48 BC, Ptolemy the 14th of Egypt managed to depose and exile his sister and wife, Queen Cleopatra. He secured the country's borders against her return and began to rule on his own. Later that year, Julius Caesar came to Alexandria to ensure that despite the local power struggles, Egypt would remain loyal to Rome. One night, Caesar was meeting with his generals in the Egyptian palace, discussing strategy, when a guard entered to report that a Greek merchant was at the door bearing a large and valuable gift for the Roman leader. Caesar, in the mood for a little fun, gave the merchant permission to enter. The man came in carrying on his shoulders a large rolled up carpet. He undid the rope around the bundle and with a snap of his wrist unfurled it, revealing the young Cleopatra. Wow, she came in a fruit roll-up, who had been hidden inside and who rose up half-clothed before Caesar and his guests, like Venus emerging from the waves. Yo, Cleopatra was so extra. Is this real, chat? Everybody was dazzled at the sight of the beautiful young queen, only 21 at the time. The shag rug, yep. Yeah, that's crazy. You don't even have to go that far to do that, but I mean, it was sick though. Everyone was dazzled at the sight of the beautiful young queen, only 21 at the time, appearing before them suddenly as if in a dream. They were astounded at her daring and theatrically, smuggled into the harbor at night with only one man to protect her, risking everything on a bold move. No one was more enchanted than Caesar. According to the writer Dio Cassius, Cleopatra was the prime in life. She had a delightful voice which could not fail to cast a spell over all who heard it. She was the charm of the person, and her speech that they drew the coldest and most determined misogynist into their toils. Caesar was spellbound as soon as he set eyes on her, and she opened her mouth to speak. That same evening, Cleopatra became Caesar's lover. Nice. We got him. We are in. Caesar had numerous mistresses before to divert him from the rigors of his campaigns, but he had always disposed of them quickly. Disposed of them? I mean, they could return to what really thrilled him, political intrigue, the challenges of warfare, the Roman theater. Caesar had seen women try anything to keep him under her spell, yet nothing prepared him from Cleopatra. One night, she would tell him how together they could revive the glory of Alexander the Great and rule the world like gods. The next, she would entertain him dressed as the goddess Isis, surrounded by the opulence of her court. Cleopatra initiated Caesar in the most decadent revelries, presenting herself as the incarnation of Egyptian exotic. His life with her was a constant game, as challenging as warfare. For the moment he felt secure with her, she would suddenly turn cold or angry, and he would have to find a way to regain her favor. In the meantime, our good ship, with the perfect wind to drive her, fast approached by Siren's Isle. But now the breeze dropped, some power lulled the waves, and a breathless calm set in. Rising from the seas, my men drew into their sail and threw it into the hold. They sat down at the oars and turned at the water white with their blades of polished pine. Meanwhile, I took a large round of wax, cut it up with my sword, and kneaded the pieces with all the strength of my fingers. The wax soon yielded my vigorous treatment and grew warm. I had the rays of my lord the sun to help me. I took each of my men in turn and plugged their ears with it. They then made me a prisoner on my ship by binding me hand and foot, standing me up by the stub of the mast, and tying the rope's ends to the mast itself. This done, they sat down once more and struck the grey water with their oars. We made good progress, and had just come within the call of the shore when the sirens became aware that a ship was swiftly bearing down upon them, and broke into their liquid song. "Draw near," they sang, "illustrious Odysseus, flower of the Achaean chivalry, and bring your ship to rest that you may hear our voices. No seaman sailed his black ship past this spot without listening to the sweet tones from our lips." The lovely voices came to me across the water, and my heart was filled with such a longing to listen that then nod and frown I signed to my men to set me free. Homer from the Odyssey. The charm of Cleopatra's presence was irresistible, and there was an attraction in her person and talk, together with a peculiar force of character, which pervaded her every word and action, and laid all who associated with her under its spell. It was a delight merely to hear the sound of her voice, to which, like an instrument of many strings, she could pass from one language to another, by Plutarch, makers of Rome. The immediate attraction of a song, a voice, a scent, the attraction of the panther with his perfume scent. According to the ancients, the panther is the only animal who emits a perfumed odor. It uses this scent to draw and capture its victims. But what is it that seduces in a scent? What is it that in the Song of the Sirens that rises us, or in the beauty of a face? In the depths of an abyss? Riz lies in the annulment of signs and their meaning, in pure appearance. The eyes that seduce have no meaning. They end in the gaze, as the face with makeup ends in only appearance. The scent of a panther is also meaningless. Message and behold, the message is invisible, as the woman beneath her makeup. The sirens, too, remain unseen. The enchantment lies in what is within. Jean Bouillard in the Seduction. The weeks went by. Caesar got rid of Olive. Yeah, the Black Panther. In a way. How come they didn't make any, like, Axe body spray where they just had a panther in front of it? Aren't they not reading their history? We need to, like, change that. The weeks went by. Caesar got rid of all of Cleopatra's rivals. Can you believe that? The man really went and killed all of her rivals, invaded them with his armies because he was down bad for Cleopatra. I respect that. I respect both of them. And found excuses to stay in Egypt. At one point, she led him down a lavish historical expedition down the Nile. In a boat of unimaginable splendor, towering 54 feet out of the water, including several terraced levels, in a pillared temple to the god Dionysus. Caesar became one of the few Romans to gaze upon the pyramids, and while he stayed long in Egypt, away from his throne in Rome, all kinds of turmoil erupted throughout the Roman Empire. When Caesar was murdered in 44 BC, he was succeeded by a triumvirate of rulers including Mark Antony, a brave soldier who loved pleasure and spectacle, and fancied himself a kind of Roman Dionysus. A few years later, while Antony was in Syria, Cleopatra invited him to come meet her in the Egyptian town of Tarsus. Ooh. There, when she had made him wait for her, her appearance was as startling in its way as her first before Caesar in a fruit roll-up. A magnificent gold barge of purple sails appeared on the river Cydnus. The oarsmen rowed to the accompaniment of ethereal music. All around the boat were beautiful young girls dressed as nymphs and mythical figures. Cleopatra sat on deck, surrounded and fenced by cupids, and posed as the goddess Aphrodite, whose name the crowd chanted enthusiastically. Like all of Cleopatra's victims, Antony felt mixed emotions. The exotic pleasures offered were hard to resist. But he also wanted to tame her. To defeat this proud and illustrious woman would prove his greatness. And so he stayed, and like Caesar, fell down bad. She indulged him in all of his weaknesses: gambling, ruckus parties, elaborate rituals, lavish spectacles to get him back to Rome. Octavius, gambling mentioned, won it all. Let's go. Dear, I'm praying to Ra right now. Ra. I pray to Ra. Indeed. You made it. Welcome back. We were just talking about Cleopatra and we just got some of her riz. Yes. Octavius, another member of the Roman triumvirate, offered him a wife. His own sister, Octavia, one of the most beautiful women in Rome, known for her virtue and goodness. She could keep Antony away from the Egyptian whore. The ploy worked for a while, but Antony was unable to forget Cleopatra. And after 3 years, he went back to her. This time, it was for good. He had, in essence, become Cleopatra's slave, granting her immense powers, adopting Egyptian dress and customs, and renouncing the ways of Rome. Only one image of Cleopatra survives, a barely visible profile on a coin, but we have numerous written descriptions. She had a long, thin face. Oh, long, thin face. Oh, we got you. Long, thin face and a somewhat pointed nose. Her dominant features were her wonderfully large eyes. Her seductive power, however, did not lie in her looks. Indeed, many among women of Alexandria were considered more beautiful than she. What she did have above all other women was the ability to distract the man. In reality, Cleopatra was physically unexceptional and had no political power. I'm surprised about that. Yet both Caesar and Antony, brave and clever men, saw none of this. What they saw was a woman who constantly transformed herself before their eyes, a one-woman spectacle. Her dress and makeup changed from day to day, but always gave her a heightened goddess-like appearance. Her voice, which all writers talk of, was lifting and intoxicating. Her words could not be banal enough, but were so spoken so sweetly that listeners could find themselves remembering not what she said, but how she said it. Cleopatra provided constant variety, tributes, mock battles, expeditions, costumed orgies. Everything had a touch of drama and was accomplished with great energy. Wow. No way. Sounds like some anti-Riz behavior, if I have to say so myself. Sorry for what? I see. She's just plain hot and cold. Everything had a touch of drama and was accomplished with great energy. By the time your head lay on the pillow beside her, your mind was spilling with images and dreams. And just when you thought you had this fluid, larger-than-life woman, she would just turn distant or angry, making it clear that everything was on her terms. You'd never possessed Cleopatra, you worshipped her. In this way, a woman who had been exiled and destined for an early death managed to turn it all around and rule Egypt for close to 20 years. From Cleopatra we learn that it is not beauty that makes a siren, but rather a theatrical streak that allows a woman to embody a man's fantasies. A man grows bored with a woman no matter how beautiful. He yearns for different pleasures and for adventure. All a woman needs to turn this around is to create an illusion that she offers such variety and adventure. A man is easily deceived by appearances. He has a weakness for the visual. Create the physical presence of a siren, heightened sexual allure mixed with a regal and theatrical manner, and he is trapped. He cannot grow bored with you, yet he cannot discard you. Keep up the distractions and never let him see who you really are. He will follow you until he drowns. We're dazzled by feminine adornment, by the surface, all gold and jewels. So little of what we observed is the girl herself, and where, you may ask, amid such plenty, can our object of passion be found? The eyes deceived by love's smart camouflage by Ovid. He was herding his cattle on Mount Gargarus, the highest peak of Ida, when Hermes, accompanied by Hera, Athene, and Aphrodite, delivered the golden apple and Zeus's message. Paris, since you are as handsome as you are wise in affairs of the heart, Zeus commands you to judge which of these goddesses is the fairest. So be it, sighed Paris. But first, I beg of the losers to not be vexed with me. I am only a human being, liable to make the stupidest mistakes. The goddesses all agreed to abide by his decision. Will it be enough to judge them as they are? Paris asked Hermes. Or should they be naked? The rules of the context are for you to decide, Hermes answered with a discreet smile. In that case, will they kindly disrobe? Hermes told the goddesses to do so. Oh, nice, and politely turned his back. Aphrodite was soon ready, but Athene insisted that she would remove the famous magic girdle, which gave her an unfair advantage by making everybody fall in love with the wearer. Very well, said Aphrodite spitefully. I will, on one condition, that you remove your helmet. You look hideous without it. Now, if you please, I must judge you one at a time, announced Paris. Come here, divine Hera. Will you two other goddesses be good to leave us for a while? Excuse me, conscientiously said Hera, turning slowly around and displaying her magnificent figure. And remember that if you judge me on the fairest, I will make you lord of all of Asia and the richest man alive. I am not to be bribed with, my lady. Very well, thank you. Now I have seen all I need to see. Come, divine Athene. Here I am, said Athene, striding purposefully award. Listen, Paris, if you have enough common sense to award me the prize, I will make you a victorious in all your battles, as well as the handsomest and wisest man in the world. I am a humble herdsman, not a soldier, said Paris, but I promise I will consider fairly your claim to the apple. Now you are at the liberty to put on your clothes and helmet again. Is Aphrodite ready? Aphrodite sighed next to him, and Paris blushed because she came so close they were almost touching. Look carefully, please. Pass nothing over. By the way, as soon as I saw you, I said to myself, upon my word, there goes the handsomest young man in Frisia. Why does he waste himself here in the wilderness herding stupid cattle? Well, why do you, Paris? Why not move into a city and lead a civilized life? What have you to lose by marrying someone like Helen of Sparta, who is as beautiful as I am, and no less passionate? I suggest now that you two agree with my son as your guide. Once you reach Sparta, he and I will see that Helen falls head over heels in love with you. Would you swear to that? Paris asked excitedly. Aphrodite uttered a solemn, and Paris, without a second thought, awarded her the golden apple. Robert Graves, the Greek. Beautiful. The Sex Siren. Norma G. Mortensen. The future Marilyn Monroe. Nico Mio, the drinker of water. Hold on. Norma Jean Mortensen, the future Marilyn Monroe, spent part of her childhood in Los Angeles orphanages. Her days were filled with chores and no play. At school, she kept to herself, smiled rarely, and dreamed a lot. One day when she was 13, as she was dressing for school, she noticed that the white blouse the orphanages provided for her was torn. She had to borrow a sweater from a younger girl in the house. It was a hard knock life. The sweater was several sizes too small. That day, suddenly, boys seemed to gather around her whenever she went. She was extremely well developed for her age, she wrote in her diary. They stared at my sweater as if it was a gold mine. The revelation was simple but startling. Previously ignored and even ridiculed by other students, Norma Jean now sensed a way to gain attention, maybe even power, for she was wildly ambitious. She started to smile more, wore more makeup, and dressed differently. As soon as she noticed something equally startling, without having her say or do anything, boys fell down bad in love with her. My admirers all said the same thing in different ways, she wrote. It was not my fault. They're wanting to kiss me and hug me. Some say it was the way I look at them, with eyes full of passion. Others say it was my voice that lured them on. Still, others said I gave off vibrations that floored them. A few years later, Marilyn was trying to make it in the film business. Producers would tell her the same thing. She was attractive enough in person, but her face was not pretty enough for the movies. She was getting work as an extra, and when she was on screen, even for a few seconds, the men in the audience would go wild. The theaters would erupt in catcalls, but nobody saw any star quality in this man. One day in 1949, only 23 at the time in her career at a standstill, Monroe met someone at a diner who told that a producer casting a new Groucho Marx film, Love Happy, was looking for an actress for the part of the blonde bombshell who could walk by Groucho in a way that would, in his words, arouse my elderly libido and cause smoke to issue from my ears. Talking her way into an audition, she improvised this walk. It's me, Mae West, Thada Bara, and Bo Peep all rolled into one, said Groucho after watching her saunter by. We shoot the scene tomorrow morning, and Marilyn created her infamous walk. A walk that was hardly natural but offered a strange mix of innocence and sex. Over the next few years, Marilyn taught herself through trial and error to heighten the effect she had on men. Her voice had always been attractive. It was the voice of a little girl. But on film, it had limitations until somebody taught her how to lower it, give it deep, breathy tones that became her seductive trademark, a mix of the little girl and the vixen. Before appearing on set or even at a party, Marilyn would spend hours before the mirror. Most assumed this was vanity. She was in love with her image. The truth was that image took hours to create. She spent years studying and practicing the art of makeup. The voice, the walk, the face, and look were all constructions, an act. At the height of her fame, she would get a thrill by going into bars in New York City without her makeup or glamorous clothes and passing unnoticed. Success finally came, but with it came something deeply annoying to her. The studios would only cast her as the blonde bombshell. She wanted serious roles, but no one took her seriously for those parts, no matter how hard she downplayed the siren quality she had built up. One day, while she was rehearsing from a scene from the cherry orchard, her acting instructor, Michael Shekov, asked her, "Were you thinking of sex while we played the scene?" She said, "No." He continued, "All through our playing of the scene, I kept receiving sex vibrations for you, as if you were a woman in a grip of passion. I understand the problem with the studio now, Marilyn. You are a woman who gets off of sex vibrations no matter what you are thinking or doing. The world has already responded to those vibrations. They came off in the movie screens when you were on them." Marilyn Monroe loved the effect her body could give on the male libido. She turned her physical presence like an instrument, making herself reek of sex and giving a glamorous, larger-than-life appearance. Other women knew just as many tricks for heightening their sexual appeal. But what separates Marilyn from them was an unconscious element. Her background had deprived her of something crucial: affection. Her deepest need was to feel loved and desired, which made her seem constantly vulnerable, like a little girl craving protection. She emanated this need for love before the camera. It was effortless, coming from somewhere real and deep inside. A look or gesture that she did not intend to arouse desire would do so doubly powerfully just because it was so unintended. It was innocence, precisely what excited a man. The sex siren has a more urgent and immediate effect than the spectacular siren does. The incarnation of sex and desire, she does not bother to appeal to extraneous senses or to create a theatrical build-up. Her time never seems to be taken up by work or chores. She gives the impression that she lives her pleasure and is always available. What separates the sex siren from the courtesan or whore is her touch of innocence and vulnerability. The mix is perversely satisfying. It gives the male the critical illusion that he is a protector, the father figure, although it is actually the sex siren who controls the dynamic. A woman does not have to be born with the attributes of Marilyn Monroe to fill the role of the sex siren. Most of the physical elements are a construction. The key is an air of schoolgirl innocence. While one of you seems to scream sex, and the other is coy and naive, as if you were incapable of understanding the effect you were having. Guys, what do you mean, lewd? I don't know what you guys are talking about. Your walk, your voice, your manner are delightfully ambiguous. You are both the experienced, desiring woman and the innocent gaming. Your next encounter will be with the sirens, who bewitch every man that approaches them. For with the music of their song, the sirens cast their spell upon him as they sit there in the meadow piled high with the moldering skeletons of men, whose withered skin still hangs upon their bones. Circe to Odysseus. And in that, oh, Mr. Spooky, hello. I hope you got to at least hang out for a little bit, but we were just about to finish up this segment of the book on the art of seduction. But we will continue another time. I appreciate your visit. And for everybody else that was also here, I hope that you got a little Riz review for later. That said, have a good night, everybody. Hope you take care. Get it twisted. Bye bye.